Hello, I'm Sue Hutchins, and welcome to the next session in the series of Iowa Prison Perspectives. This is a collaboration between Iowa Justice Action Network, Living Beyond the Bars of Iowa, and Iowa Cure. The purpose of these sessions is for you, the public, to gain some awareness of prison, what goes on in prison from people who have been there, from people who have worked there, from loved ones, and from people like myself who is an advocate. Today we are fortunate to have a young man who did quite a few years. His name is Cory Covington, and he's been out now for a couple of years and is reunited with his family. The reason that I have asked him to speak with you and tell his story, and he so graciously agreed, is because I believe that you hearing from people who actually have done time in Iowa prisons will open your eyes to what prison life is like from inside. So now I'm going to turn it over to Cory, and he will give you his story. Cory, it's
Yep.
all yours.
How's it going? My name's Cory Covington. Like Sue was saying, I did 17 and a half years for a first degree robbery that I committed back in 2003. Um, the robbery was pertaining to, responsibilities due to adulthood. Maybe I was fighting my demons. I had things that I had to work through and I was trying to work through, and, life had its disadvantages, and I made some bad choices. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody in the process, and nobody did get hurt. But yeah, I ended up, in prison in the state of Iowa. I grew up out in Maryland, grew up in the Naval Academy dairy farm. My dad, ran the herd department, with all the cows and everything. And he started a 4-H, and he taught me a lot of things, growing up, but all that got stripped away from me. Family got cancer, things happen, and but I was 22, 23, often in different places, working different places, all these things, and I committed a robbery. Didn't have any bullets in the weapon or anything like that. Like I said, no, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Um, but I understand there's laws that need to be abided by. And if we just let anybody do whatever, and people get hurt. So I did my time in the Anamosa State Penitentiary, majority of it until my gradual release date. And Anamosa was closest to home. I chose that because so I could be an influence to my kids, to my family. A lot of the Covington family is around from this area and all these things. But my parents, they moved back out east, but they still was, trying to be supportive the best way they could without having to stop their lives. So Anamosa State Penitentiary. So basically, I was trying to utilize a lot of the skills that, was taught to me, as a teenager, with work ethic, family, groundation, things like that, faith and religion. So I want to go into this program in Newton that they had. It was called Christian Interchange Program, and try to start my time off on a positive note, and try to be an influencer while I was doing my time, even though I had to do so much time. Because that's what I was taught. I was taught to, take steps forward no matter what situation you're in. So when they denied me for that program, they said, well, if I talk to such and such, this person and that person, then I'll be able to get in it. So talk to my counselor when I get to Anamosa. And I even had a sponsor and I had a mentor that was from that program. So we, definitely want to try to get those balls rolling. I ended up going to talk to my counselor about this when I got to Anamosa. And he said, oh yeah, you ain't gonna be able to do that program. And I said, well, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to do something positive, I want to be, an influence. I don't want to do more bad choices, while I'm doing time, because because I've already made a huge bad choice to get that much time. He said, well, I have too much time for it. And I was like, oh, really? He says, yeah. I said, well, is there any other programs available, that I can get involved in? And he said, nope. He says, not with this much time. I said, well, what do I do? What do you expect me to do? That's constructive. And he says, well, lay it down. That was his answer. And so I had to take matters in my own, and I had to become constructive on my own and try to build, that type of community. And it just so happened to be they had a good, chapel up there, and I was able to do some things through the chapel. I got into EFM, which is Education for Ministry, that Ann Williams puts on. And she does it with another lady. But I was able to, still be able to work on my goals, even though I wasn't really getting that type of support, through the system. I found out that you have to work steps in the systems that's going to help you to build the community that you want to build in there. You had to work with the people that are like-minded, people that understood that there was better ways of doing time, more constructive ways and things like that. So we built that community, and some of my friends that became my friends and I would consider family this day started programs, and I got involved with the sports. I got involved with the hobby craft. And I met a lot of really, really genuine people in the hobby craft. Other people that are constructive, as far as their creativity, as far as, their understanding of, what it takes to build in a community. I found grown men in prison. I found grown men that made mistakes. I found grown men that, were not from here and became victim to circumstances. I found grown men that were innocent, that never got their day in court, that I watched their lives. I watched their health, their lives dissipate in front of me. Those are the people that made a difference. Those are the people that continue to make a difference, the people that rise above that, and actually do have a day that they can get out, be reunited with their families, maybe pick up some of the things that they broke. Sorry.
No need to apologize, Cory. No need to apologize. No need at all. It's obvious that you built some relationships in prison that are very, very meaningful to you, and that you met some people in prison who have inspired you to be your better self. And that's a good thing. I think people need to know that. People need to know that everybody in prison is not just sitting around doing nothing and is not a bad person that should be thrown away, that there are good people who made bad choices.
That's it right there, Sue. You kind of hit it on the nail. So yeah, so we do right now, I did a quarter 70. So I, like Sue was saying, I did 17 and a half years. I've been out for a few years. And there's been a lot of people, they're getting out right along with me. And they're doing good things in the community. There's one guy, Johnny Estes, that, has a Braille shop that he, we learned different things. There was definitely things that we was able to do. And that's the thing, there was staff and there was a system and certain things that, only programs that they could allow you to partake of were under certain guidelines. And so some of the rehabilitation process or, that was happening in prison, it wasn't really their, staff's fault. It wasn't a counselor's fault. It wasn't, it was guidelines handed down to them that they had to, but there was also counselors that didn't care. And they, eventually they ended up shutting down. You couldn't even walk into a counselor's office and go and talk to your counselor because they locked the door. You have to make an appointment just to go and speak to your counselor. And if they don't want to talk to you, and then you may not talk to them. You might have to try to catch them on the yard and, and see if you can't talk to them that way. But, so the longer I was in there, and some things, were, some of our regulations in prison were due to, bad behavior of some of the inmates. And some of it was due to, staff just, trying to dictate, how they want it ran. Anamosa, I think in every prison that I've been to, even through gradual release, I found that there was people that were here to help people make good choices in life. There's people here that were part of the rehabilitation process, and there was people there just for a paycheck, and you could tell their motives just by their actions. And that's one of the things that you learn in doing time is that you can wait things out. You can see things from a distance, and so you learn who's who, and you learn who's willing to try to help you obtain positive motivated choices, change in your life, and who's not, and that falls on both sides of the law. It falls on the inmate side as well as it falls on the staff. It starts on the staff side, but it takes willing participants to build any type of positive change. And people see that. So you see the root of humanity. You see the good in humanity through those things. And I believe that's what's geared me so much for out here to be successful, to stand on my word, to be a man of my word, to have work ethic, to build moral value, to build a home and security. That's what I was missing, and it feels really great to be able to do that on my own. And like I said, there's a lot of us that are getting out right now. And I love to just be able to reach back in, and be able to help somebody else. And I think that, there were some things that ended up shutting security down, and I'm not sure, because right now I'm working on basically my reentry and rehabilitation. Well, my rehabilitation's already there. I've made choices while I was in that affected me as a person, as a man, as a father, as a son, what I'm saying, that be a better person, but there's things, there's I don't know if they gave visiting back, but there was an incident that happened in Anamosa that where two staff unfortunately got hurt, killed maliciously. And so security it was right after COVID and everything was shut down from COVID. And so it made everything tighter all the way around the state of Iowa. As far as security and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I'm not sure what privileges got back. But I know one of the issues in prison that we always dealt with is when anything is taken, it's very hard to get it back. You have to fight almost to get it back. And that's like the hardest part of doing time is that, these fights can take years and years. And a lot of times, the system is what wears people out. They wear you out with legislation in small print that people, they lose the will to want to fight, and that's part of, the issues in the system is that people that actually generally, have their right to, or their day in court, never get their day in court because of you know, judicious system basically just keep pushing them back. And then things happen in prison and health goes south, and they're not able to get to legal records, things like that, so they can work on their cases or they can work on their programs or whatever, or some big injustice happens, that basically oppresses the person more. There's definitely things that can be done in prison for look, I'm gonna be straight with you. The inmates are what keeps the peace. The inmates are what keeps the peace. Everybody says it's the staff. It's the staff that keeps the peace. No, it's good people. It's the staff too. But it's the inmates that make the influence on other inmates and also regulate things that happen in there. It's important, man, to see the best in humanity in whatever situation that you're in. And to be able to capitalize on those things when it matters. Because people's lives are on the line. And families' lives on the line. They say there's a thing that they say, when a person's doing time, their family's doing time. Their loved ones are doing time with them. And that's very, very true. The woman that I'm with right now was the woman I was with before I caught my case, and we fought for our family to try to make the best choices for our family, and today we're doing it a hell of a lot better than what we did 20 years ago, I guess now. We're 24 years in the making. And
Yes.
praise the Lord that that He's restored that opportunity in our family. It was a long road to get there. But those are the things that pulled me through. That was the light at the end of the tunnel. That meant everything. Those kids right there.
Mean the world to you.
They mean, yeah, and they mean the world. And it's not just my family. That's my point. My point is that you know I'm just one story and one voice of many, many voices, and some voices are strong today and some voices are lost. And you know we're human at the end of the day, and we're dealing with the same things that every other human being in the world is dealing with. And how do we do this, and how do we do this the right way? How do we do this the effective way? How do we care about what matters, what really matters in life? After all the work is done, and after all the bills are paid, you know who do you spend your time with? What and so that's where I'm at now. And I think that's where a lot of us were at in prison. It took some adjusting after I got out here to the different responsibilities, and obtaining grace and things like that. And it's going to be it's going to be a struggle the rest of my life. Everything, everybody has that.
Hmm. It is life. Life is not easy. It's a struggle a lot of times. And it comes down to making the right choices, like you were saying. So could you talk for just a minute about you couldn't get into programs when you were originally in prison, and so you found a way to start the process of changing your thinking and changing your and going back to some degree, going back to what you believed as a child before you got yourself lost and in trouble. Could you talk about when the system actually started to offer you some reentry, some help with your reentry, some help in getting ready for when you talked about your gradual release, and
Right.
when did that actually start?
The graduate release starts 3 years till you're available for allow not available. What's the word? Available? you're allowed to get paroled. So it'd be 3 years before your parole release date. If
Eligible,
was
before
to,
you're eligible
yeah,
for parole. That's the
right.
formal term. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get, what I mean, if you get released. So they don't have to release you. On a quarter 70, you're doing 70% of your time. And they can release you after that 70%, mostly dealing with good conduct. I definitely was facing some trials and tribulations during those times because we had COVID that hit. So, and everybody was affected by that, not just people in prison. So it had us locked down basically 23 hours of the day almost for 2.5 months on the first time, and then back down again, for another month. But I was one of the last ones to actually to get it, and people that got it, they went through the recovery after 10 days, and they start getting some of their privileges back sooner. So that definitely slowed things down, as far as how the prison system is going to move, which is, partially understandable. I remember I was mourning a death, man, from a band member that was actually the leader of our band. His name was Little Wayne, we called him, and uh, and I went up to the music room one of the days when I was out, and I ended up doing our songs memorial in memory of Wayne. And during that time, didn't know, but I guess my room was going through a shakedown. And I came back, and I didn't even know that it went through a shakedown after I came back until that weekend. Sunday, they come to my cell with cuffs saying, Cory, went cuff up. And it took me to jail. Took me to, jail inside of jail, so it'd be the third floor of the hole. And they said they found a pill that came back positive for cocaine. Well, I don't have a record for cocaine. I don't have a drug record, a drug background. And it was a sinus medication, because I had allergies, and I got it from my buddy. Well, they made me do 40 days in the hole over it, and I lost all my privileges, and had to start from the beginning again. That maybe that's their idea of my rehabilitation. And that was right before my 3 years, and my points went from 5 to like 26. And even introducing contraband or illegal substances inside of the institution. When I appealed this, they said I appealed it to the warden at Anamosa at that time. He was a deputy warden filling in for a warden. Do you remember his name?
No.
Well, anyway, huh?
I said, no, I don't
Okay.
remember his name.
Well, he said some evidence is enough evidence. I don't. My points were way down. I was a low security inmate at that time, and I was a full-time mentor at one point. Became a electrician into ran the bakery, and then ran third shift cook. So he said enough evidence. Some evidence is enough evidence is what they convicted me and took all my privileges away. That was their justification. How is that gonna, as a man and as a person that's done already now 15 years at that time, 14 years in that prison around the same staff, how is he supposed to feel, man? How is that supposed to help me to get out and make right choices, or to think that, that a system is for me? That system was not for me. But again, I had to find something in me that was stronger, and something in me is bigger, and something in me is better than the circumstances. So I hung on that, man, and I watched God move certain things, and and I got certain privileges later on, for maybe making right choices and not doing something that I would regret or might end up getting me more time. And that's a lot of the issues that we deal with, man, in prison that piss us off. I'm just gonna be straight up in front. You know, don't wrongly, uh, uh don't
Punish?
wrong, huh?
Don't wrongly punish?
Yeah, don't wrongly punish, but don't wrongly represent me,
Ah,
you know? Because then no longer those choices matter, right? No, none of those good choices have mattered. You know, if you wrongly represent me, and then I understand that you're not for me, and you really don't care about what is important to me or what's important to my family or what's important to the justice system or what's important, you know, and that's when you see the, you know, you see the best of humanity in prison, you see the worst of humanity. And though you could tell who's got the ulterior motives and who's after, you know, just building their career, and who actually, you know, cares enough to make adjustments on our behalf to make life better for not just us but our families. Like, because like what I said, you know, when you're doing time, your family's doing time.
mm-hmm.
So it started 3 years. I ended up working my way to getting my I was gonna be a third shift cook, work all night, you know what I mean, and then live in an honor dorm, and have my single cell, whatever, so I can rest and all those different things. That's how I was going to do my time, and then maybe I could take those skills and come out here and work restaurants or whatever. And I do have that qualification now, but so when the graduate release started, unfortunately I got out of Anamosa right before the incident where those two officers got hurt, and which was a friend of mine as well. The lady that got hurt, she nursed me back to health when I was in a CrossFit competition, and ended up hurting my back and almost lost a kidney due to almost kidney failure because overwork, you know, in hot conditions. Um, I didn't train enough. I just kind of jumped into that competition, man. But
But
but yeah,
you do make a good point that you were overworked in hot conditions. Anamosa is not air conditioned for you guys or for the guards.
this was a CrossFit competition that us inmates put together, but it was also sponsored through the prison. So it was allowed, you know, and we did CrossFit. They have them in different prisons and stuff. And it was kind of our way of training and stuff, keep training our body and our minds and our discipline, you know, so we can apply that to our day-to-day life. So they definitely promoted, you know, our health. When we promoted it and we promoted it the right way, they promoted it, you know, and believed in it. So it's good to be social, and it's good to accomplish things in groups and have support. And so if we can't get that support through the prison, we're gonna get it one way or the other, and that's how we would get it. We get it through each other. And so we learned how to build, you know, community and things like that, a society, a community, in prison. And I relate a lot of that now to this is things that I learned to do there, I can do here out when I get out. So back to the graduate release, Sue. Um, Lord bless my graduate release. So that went really smooth. I went down to Fort Dodge. I got out, like I said, I got out of Anamosa uh, right before the incident happened, and I was able to start my graduate release. And so the points dropped off. All those points dropped off, you know, because I didn't react negatively. You know, I had a counselor that said, he said, you know, a lot of things bad happen, man. You know, sometimes you just got to hold out, you know, and, you know, you got to fight for things you believe in. And so I did. I held out. I had to pray about it, of course. You know, I'm a Christian. And so that's a big part of, you know, helping me get through my time as well, and hopefully better because of it. But so, yeah, I didn't do anything, and I just went and did my time and started my graduate release. and all those points dropped off. So I was down like 5 points. So I went to from a medium max facility to a medium facility, which was Fort Dodge, and got in with the counselor there. But even over there, I'll tell you what, I dealt with some stuff over there. 2 days into being over in Fort Dodge, I had a bunch of drawing stuff, and I had I think a CD player and headphones, and these were altered. And the reason they were altered is because you don't make a lot of money in prison, and a lot of my money went to trying to do for my kids. I get ready for Christmas in October and start building projects, making projects for my kids to send home to them, by Christmas. All of my money for probably 3-4 months, would go to that. And you think it's a lot, right? No, we're talking 300 maybe. I had to make $300. I had to try to get $300 and still be able to have things that I need in prison, just for life, for a healthy lifestyle. And yeah, so I could do some things for my kids, man, so I can show them that, dad's still there, dad still cares, dad still loves you, or even for my mom, dad, whoever, everybody expects a little something, right? So you try to do it, but I started my gradual release, and I went to Fort Dodge, and this officer said that I had my drawing supplies. They found a needle in our cell, and pulled our cellies out, and basically took a bunch of my stuff out of my locker, trying to say this altered stuff was us starting a tattoo shop. Yeah, I'm gonna start a tattoo shop, when I'm only two years from release. I ain't got one tattoo on me. Not one tattoo, not because I don't love tattoos, it's because I just didn't do it because I want to end up in a hole anytime, you know what I mean? And not be able to be at a visit, when my kids show up. No, what are you guys talking about? I had those things altered because I needed them to work. They stopped working. They needed to be altered because I can't afford a new one. So it got worked out, but and from that point on, I had an officer basically, trying to hem people up. I mean, it was not just me. He hemmed up a lot of people over just petty stuff, and we were able to get that straightened out. But I ended up doing my time over there. I got a job as a tutor up at the school. My boss, her name is Kristen Hovey. She does a lot of things out in the community and things like that. Today, she actually weirdly had donated a kidney, and I got to be a part of that whole process. When she went through that, which I thought was cool as heck. She donated one of her kidneys, so somebody else could live.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of things, to promote that today. So if you ever want to check out Kristen Hovey, she's on Facebook, she's on different places, and she was a parole officer for 23 years, and she dealt with federal inmates in Fort Dodge area. And she gave up that life because she felt that the system was not fulfilling the needs, and there was people that needed probably treatment and was getting prison, and she could not promote what she knew in the system any longer, so she decided to affect the world in a different way. She left that job not too long after I left Fort Dodge, and just because she couldn't do it no more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Rockwell City, and I got involved in the electric program. I worked in maintenance, and that's when I met Sue. I met Sue probably 4 months right before I got involved in a program called Choices. That inmates, it was designed by inmates for inmates to work with staff on, rehabilitation process. So providing us the tools that we would need to get out and, and to have conversations that we need to have, and deal with issues that need to be dealt with in order for our rehabilitation. Not rehabilitation, for our reentry. So it's inmates, it was designed by inmates for inmates, and we worked with the staff, and we ended up finding supportive people in our areas, wherever we fell out of, whatever city or county we fell out of, or wherever we're going back to. So we would find supportive figures, to help build a support team, because we believe that a support team is going to be most effective, in our rehabilitation or our transition process. So I found Sue Hutchins through prison beyond the bars. It was a reentry program out by Des Moines, and Sue has not been able to do as much as she's capable or able to do, under the certain guidelines, just like pretty much everybody that's dealing with the government. You have to follow the red tape, and even if it's fair, it doesn't matter if it's fair or it's not fair, you just try to do what you can. And so I ended up getting in, I finished my apprenticeship, all my paperwork, all my schoolwork and stuff for the electrical program. Tim Deesberg is the one that kind of headed off that program and allowed us to be able to get funding and everything for the apprenticeships, so people can do apprenticeships and have some type of certification, because he believed that if you give a person a skill, you give them a life.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that too. You give them a chance. A lot of the people that took advantage of those programs, or worked for IPI, they didn't do it because IPI was treating them the best or they were getting the best money. They did it because they knew those skills were going to be valuable when they got out. And some of them did it just so they have peace of mind while they were in, because if you're not working towards something, they say that devil's hands is idle hands is the devil's workshop. So if you ain't doing something with these things are going to do something for you.
Yeah. And IPI is Iowa Prison Industries. Just so people know, people wouldn't necessarily know what IPI stands for, and that's Iowa Prison Industries. It's it's a organization that gives people who are incarcerated different jobs. Just
Yep.
as a short explanation of what IPI is. So
Right.
go ahead with your reentry.
Yep.
You're a counselor at Rockwell. Didn't you meet with your counselor pretty regularly at Rockwell on what your goals were?
Yeah, my counselor was, kind of worthless. I think he's been at his job way too long. You know how people are at the job, they're at the job way too long, become complacent. He wasn't beneficial, you could definitely see there was different motives that motivated him. So yeah, I mean, again, we had to work the system to make it work for us. And we had to find like-minded people to help us to work the system. And even over in Rockwell, we dealt with issues, and Sue can, witness or testify to this, that, they tried to make us disrespect the people that we lived with just so they could do count. It was never anything that had to be done. They wanted us to put our feet down over our bunks. So if you have two bunks, you got one person on the bottom, you got one person on the top. They wanted us to hang our feet over our cellie's face, basically. I wasn't going, anybody that's done time, man, if you fall for, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And no, you're not going to take away my human dignity, just so you can perform a job. And I literally had to stand up against that, and we went through the right process of doing so. We followed the grievance process. We talked to staff. We did whatever we had to do. And finally, they called me into the security office and straightened it out. But, why do I have to be put into a situation at the end of my sentence to have to deal with disgruntled staff trying to do more? It wasn't even a state regulation. That was a private prison. And private prisons think they could do whatever they want to do. They act like it's just a business. And that's the hardest thing, in prison, is just dealing with, well, this person even look like me as a human? Do I even matter? It's hopelessness. People need to feel like they matter. All you people out here, I'm sure you want somebody to make you feel or help you feel like you're important in some way, some fashion, somehow. And that's everything that that we're asking. We're asking, okay, well, the people that take accountability for what they did wrong, that's what we want to be able to be treated fairly. I mean, even from my own family out here, like they're always looking at, oh, what did he do? What did he do? And they're quick to jump on the strike team, to crucify somebody because of what everybody else says. And I just want you guys to know that's not us. That's not, I know hundreds of people, and I got hundreds of voices in me, of good men, good people, men and women. We can even go back to staff again. And there's definitely women in there that made a difference. That's what I want to promote. That's what I want to support. So reentry, we did that choice program, and it was ran by a juvenile lifer and another guy that did a lot of time. And we built up those skills in there. Nothing we did, man. I don't think I think the leadership came, like I was saying earlier, the leadership came from the inmates. Inmates, people taking accountability for their actions and making better choices in their life. I don't care who you are, you're not going to be effective, and you're not going to help any situation if you don't have that empathy. If you don't have you should not be in the justice system and help in any state of form if you don't have empathy over human life. God protected me, not the system. God got me to this point. God will get me to the next stage in my family's life, and He's restoring and healing our family daily. As far as my parents, my sisters, all the everybody, nieces, nephews. Some relationships will never be restored, and I don't know if it's anything that I've done or anything that I can do to gain those back. It takes people like Sue, it takes people like Tim Deesberg, it takes people like Kristen Hovey, to truly make a difference in the world and truly make a difference in the system. And that's just naming a few. There's definitely good people that will try to do what they can for other good people. The reentry, I went to the halfway house from Rockwell with the skills of being able to do electrical work. I buckled down. I got all my tests done when I was over in Rockwell, and I buckled down and got that. Didn't get my certification as an electrician yet, but it's definitely gave me skills to get into that department. And then, I got help through Tim Deesberg. He helped me with the job. Another one is Brian Peibel. Brian Peibel worked for the workforce, and he helped with, providing jobs. So he was probably the biggest success, part of success, for us that are coming from doing such a long time back into society, uh, because he believed that, it's community starts in providing for
Mhm.
yourself, for your community, for your family and everything. So if I can provide you a job, and then you have no excuse, you know,
Yeah.
you can make something from that. And a lot of guys have. And so, yeah, those are the programs that mattered and still do matter. And so, I'm working for Johnson Health Tech today, delivering and installing and delivering health equipment, uh, treadmills, ellipticals, things like that. So all the workout stuff that I did when I was in, definitely helped motivate that, and I believe in, preventative healthcare. I believe
Mhm.
in preventative, like you got to stay moving. You got to keep moving. If you don't stay moving, and then, that's when things will, health wise, can happen. Things can happen anyway, but those staying moving will help prevent. So I work for that. Uh, so there was good things. I don't know what with that. Did you need to know? You have any other questions or things that you would like me to cover, Sue?
No, I think you've covered everything. I do want to say, you said that Rockwell was a private prison.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh, What did you mean by that?
It was it was privately owned. In other words, that they're not owned by the government, that they pay, don't they? They get a certain amount of money, I think. Yeah, they get a certain amount of money from taxpayers, I think, right?
But it is a state prison.
It's a
It
state
is a
prison.
state. Yeah.
It's privately owned, as far as like they own basically what happens within those walls. And I think they get a certain amount of money from the state to house inmates. If it could be, I mean, you have to look into it further, but
Yeah.
privately owned businesses, they still have to go by certain DOC regulations. Yes.
Yes, it's run. Yeah, it's run by this. Yeah, the state takes care of what goes on in the prison and makes the rules. It's state run in that respect, and all the correctional officers.
Paid by the state. I think they pay. I think they get paid because I know they were talking about the balloon place or whatever that they have over there. It pays a
Right.
big portion of the bills, so they pay a lot of their own bills, and that's what gives them certain rights and privileges to be able to kind of buck the system in their way.
Well, and I'm not sure that that program still exists. I'm not sure that the balloon program is still up and running. I don't know. I'll have to look into that and see. I know that for a while it was canceled. The contract was canceled. So
Right.
I don't really know. But I do know that Rockwell is where a lot of people go prior to reentry. So that they can work outside and they can be prepared, and that it is not
Yeah.
it's minimum as far as your classification, it's a minimum security prison. So, okay, yeah.
Right. So, and that did help. So what they have in play as a gradual release definitely did help. It just
Yeah.
it took a whole lot to get to that point, and if I would have had better support uh, and better programs in the system as I went along, it wouldn't have been so hard to make better choices. I mean, I think that you should reward good decisions, and
Mhm.
people, So if I'm 25 or 26, 27 years old and I want to make some good decisions at that age, you know, you should. I think that people should be promoting those things. You shouldn't just it can't be just cut and dry. I'm already in prison. I'm already away from my family. The threat has already been taken from society. Okay. So what is the point of continuing to keep punishing me? And how do you think that that's going to be effective when I get out? Because I'm going to tell you right now, not everybody's strong. And some people, they maybe they've come from a different walk in life. Maybe they grew up with an abusive family, or alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever. And so now they go into this system, and and they're treated the same way. If they don't even know how to have a voice, because they've always been a victim to the evil side of humanity.
Mhm.
Uh, and we got to understand those things. What are we doing with the prison system? Are we trying to make people better? Are we trying to get the community better, or are we just throwing rocks?
Good point. And you're saying that there are good people that work in the system, and the system oftentimes, in your opinion, ties their hands from doing more good that they would like to do. That there really are some good people who work in the system, and the
Yeah.
politics of prison keeps them from doing better to help the people who are incarcerated and their families.
The more you point fingers, man, the less you come up with solutions, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's good, to find out the core, issue of any problem. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And try to root that, but try to do it without disembodying parts of that. You know what I mean? Like, without destroying it before you can fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There has to be room for empathy. There has to be room for compassion. There has to be room for understanding. There has to be room for relationship.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I just want to thank you very much for being willing to give your time and tell your story, and congratulate you on
It's an
being
honor for me.
successful. And I'm awfully glad that you and your family have reunited, and that you and, dare I say her name, Desiree, are together,
Yeah.
and your children have their dad back. I think that's wonderful. And that you're doing well out here in society, that you
Yeah.
found
Every day's
housing.
a struggle. Every day's a struggle, but we're doing the best we can, just like I think the next person.
That's right. I mean, there are struggles in life, and it's all comes down to making the right choices, because the choices that we make today kind of define what our future will be tomorrow and next year. I mean, it's a daily building of making right choices along the
Yeah.
way. So,
Yep.
thank you very much for your time and for your story. And as always, I wish you well, and I'll be in touch soon. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, same with you
But
too.
yes, and once again, I'm Sue Hutchins, and this is Iowa Prison Perspectives. I would love to hear from you in the public. I can be reached at Iowa Prison Perspectives at gmail.com, and that's IA Prison Perspectives at gmail.com. This really is intended, all of these in this series are intended to open discussion and elicit comments from people, whether you agree or disagree or just want to make comments about what you hear here, about what you think about prison, if this has made any, if it's touched you, if you disagree, whatever. This is intended to open discussions about the prison system and the people who find themselves in prison and their families, the effects that prison has on our society in general and on individuals. So please get in touch with me if you are so moved, and um, continue to listen. And I hope to see you again soon. Take care and talk to you later. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye. Are you getting off?